Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today on Living Abroad, I'm going to tell you 5 things that I like about Turkey, 5 pros, and 5 things that I don't like, 5 cons. I'm just here in Istanbul in my apartment drinking some Turkish tea. You got to make that noise when you drink this tea. Anyways, my name's Alex and you can live through me. So let's begin. What I'm going to try to do is not give you the typical things that you might hear in different videos. I'm going to try to give you some of my own kind of take on things, and also some things that I can't really avoid that everyone agrees with. So let's begin with con number 1. So the first bad thing here is security. Now I don't mean like safety really, I just mean more like earthquakes, for example. That's like a geographical disadvantage of Turkey. There seems to be lots of earthquakes here, and for me personally, I only experienced 2. They weren't really that bad. They were just minor ones where I just felt like maybe shaking a little bit, so that can be an issue. It's not a big deal. It should definitely not deter you from coming here, but something to think about, or don't be surprised if you're here and you feel a little bit of a shake. Another thing about security, on the streets you may see some people in riot gear and some really heavy equipment, but that's just to maintain the peace, I think, for protests that are going on, some university students. And I saw that for I guess still till today, I see it often, once or twice a week. Lots of police officers on the street. It's like armored trucks and things like that. So don't be alarmed if you come from like a place where you haven't seen too many of those things. It's just, I guess, to show presence for protesters to not get out of hand. That's another thing. And actually, myself, I got pulled out of a couple of taxis and been checked for ID. So a lot of times they'll stop you on the street. If you look like a tourist or a foreigner, they'll ask for your identification to make sure that you're not overstaying your visa approved time. So luckily for me, I had my ID with me. And don't have your passport with you, guys. So I know it sounds weird, right? Just make sure you have a picture of it or like an ID or something, because you don't want to lose it. That's just my own personal thing. I don't want to lose my passport. I just leave it at home and I carry some other form of identification, right? So that's the bad thing number 1. Let's move on to something that's good. One good thing about here in Istanbul, Turkey. So the weather, the Turkish weather is incredible. So if you're coming from Canada, which is really, really cold, to winters here in Turkey, in Istanbul, it's not that bad. I've been here since January and I only saw 2 days of snow, I think. And the summers aren't too like excruciating hot. It's not humid like Southeast Asia where you have to take like 2 or 3 showers a day. So even though it gets hot, it's manageable, maybe like 30 degrees, and it's not too humid. So that's a good thing. And in the summertime, you can always go to like cities like Bodrum or Antalya and enjoy the beautiful beaches and enjoy the weather. So the weather can be a positive thing if you're coming from a really cold place or a really hot place. The weather is always a great thing. That was pro thing number 1. Pro number 1 was the weather. So let's move on to con number 2. What is something that's bad? We talked about security. Now let's talk about language barrier. Now, like many have pointed out, I'm sure in other videos, language can be an issue here. So not too many people speak English fluently. Of course, there's people that speak a few words, a few sentences, but if you have to get some things done, like have to communicate with people on a regular basis for your job or for school or for something important, then that can be an issue. Now for me, it's not a big deal. I live a very simple life. I go to restaurants, cafes, meet friends. It's very easy to communicate. I just point at pictures or use Google Translate or use like hand gestures, and people kind of get the idea of what I want, right? So language can be a thing, so don't be surprised if you notice not too many people here speak English. But I mean, you're in Turkey, right? Maybe it's a good chance to learn Turkish and actually put yourself into and immerse yourself into the culture and the language, and you could probably make some really good friends by learning the Turkish language. Pro number 2, the second thing I like about here in Istanbul, Turkey, is culture. You can see culture all around yourself, from the buildings, the architecture, people walking around selling Turkish flags. You can see it in the stores, and of course the food, the smell of things. There's people playing musical instruments, traditional instruments, people singing songs and like putting on puppet shows, people dressed in robot costumes, or like they're doing all kinds of different things. So you get to see this all around Turkey and in Istanbul, of course, and you can really sense the culture here, and there's many people that are very proud of their culture, as they should should be. So that's something really different. It's always nice to see something new from where you come from and see the different culture around the world. And for me, Turkey has a great culture and it's very visible, right? So I can see it everywhere I go. That's pro number 2. I really like to see the Turkish culture all around me in my neighborhood, wherever I go. It's very visible. Now let's move on to con number 3. The third thing that's really bad here, in my opinion, is inflation. Now, even for myself, inflation is really noticeable, right? So you can see it in everyday life, from things that you buy at the store, the cost of food, services, rent, even everything's going up. So what I've noticed, at least 20 to 30, 35, even 40% inflation, depending on what you're talking about. Something as small as corn, for example. Corn on the street, when I came here in January, it was only 4 lira. Now it's gone up to 7 lira. That's a really big jump in just the corn alone. Or like when I bought yogurt, it was at 12 lira. Now it's at 16 lira. Now it may not make a difference when you're thinking like 1 or 2 things, but if you're going grocery shopping on a weekly or monthly basis, all that could really add up. And if your salary is in Turkish lira, you have to really consider the inflation rate, right? So it's really high here. And if you're coming here to work, you have to definitely consider that. And price of rent is going up too. So the landlord initially was charging me a certain price. Now it's gone up like by at least 20% if I want to, if someone else wants to take over my apartment. So yeah, that's a very bad thing. Inflation, especially for Turkish people, they could really feel it. And I definitely feel it as well. So keep that in mind, inflation. Pro number 3 is mobility. So Istanbul is a massive city, 16 to 18 million people, and it expands across 2 continents, Europe and Asia. And there's like so many ways of getting around town. The public transportation system is amazing. They got like taxis, boats, buses, cars, ferries, trains, subways, trams, probably horses I haven't even seen. So what you gotta do, you can just get yourself one of these Metro or Istanbul cards and just put some money on it and move around, and it's really, really cheap. So yeah, it's amazing. You can really move around without any problems, with ease. And if you want to use a taxi, just be sure to download some apps to help you get an idea of how much it's going to cost. Download BitTaxi, put your location, and once you get an idea of how much it's going to cost, then just find yourself a taxi, jump in there. Don't bother negotiating. Just tell them where you want to go and they'll take you there. Make sure you press directions on your Google Maps so they can hear that you're following it, so they don't take you for a spin around town. Those are some tips I'm going to tell you later on probably. But yeah, so mobility is another pro. Moving back to the con section, con number 4 is taxes. I don't mean like income tax, I mean taxes on electronics. For example, when you bring your phone from abroad, you can't just use it as long as you want. You have only 3 months. You can use your phone for 3 months. After that, you have to go and pay over 2,000 lira in taxes for this to still receive internet when you're outside. Wi-Fi is fine, but if you just want internet outside your home, you're going to have to pay some taxes so they can open and unlock your phone, which is, yeah, I don't want to pay 2,000 lira, so that can be a con for sure. Same with cars. There's high taxes on used cars. If you want to buy a car here, it's going to cost you 3, 4, even 5 times more than what you expected. So that's another con, taxes. Moving to the pro side, let's talk about something good. Pro number 4, of course, is food. Now, I love Turkish food. As we all know, I love kebabs, lahmacun, menti, you call it sarma. All the Turkish food that I've tried here has been delicious. Nothing that I don't like. So food is another very big plus. You can really feel the flavors and taste them, and the process takes a long time. It's not something quick put together, and food is definitely a pro in my books here. It's probably my top 2 or 3 favorite cuisines I've ever tried. So I really love Turkish food. Definitely try it if you come. Of course you're going to try it, but that's a pro number 4. So going back to the con side, the 5th and final con is what? Let's take a look. Smoking. Smoking. Everybody's smoking. Everybody smokes here. Everybody, I'm telling you. Maybe not everybody, but it feels like everybody. So cafes, restaurants, public spaces, you're gonna feel smoke and you're gonna smell it in your nostrils. Your nose holes are gonna get like all filled up with smoke. Now I've been like spoiled with Canadian nature that I had like, you know, my lungs haven't experienced such high volumes of smoke, and like I think even after the coronavirus, I'm gonna keep wearing my mask, right? So smoking here, like any other European country, is at a high rate. So be sure that you're aware of that in case you're sensitive, got asthma or something like that. Smoking is another con. Now going to the pro, let's go back and tell you what the 5th and final pro thing. Now before we talk about this, it's a little bit of a sensitive topic because understandably, not everybody's gonna be in my position or your position situation. Everyone's financial situation is different, but pro number 5 for myself personally, someone coming from the West, not earning Turkish lira, is the cost of living. Even with all these things said, Turkey provides great cost of living for foreigners like myself or anyone else earning in euros, dollars, pounds. If you're coming here, it's going to be really beneficial to you because you get modern day living standards at a fraction of the cost. Now, don't get me wrong, for sure, of course, this is a sensitive topic, like I said, but you have to remember, people like myself and whoever travels here, they're actually contributing to the economy, right? So we're helping the restaurants stay open. People have jobs. Now, one person may not make a difference, but hundreds of thousands of tourists definitely boost the Turkish economy. So hopefully the lira can strengthen up again. But that's the 5th pro thing that I like about Istanbul. What do you guys think? What are some things that you are really curious about? What did you find out that was new? Leave your comments down below. That was this week's video. I really appreciate you sticking around till the end. I know it was long and I talked a lot, but I'm really passionate about Turkey and I really highly recommend you guys visiting. If you found this video informative or entertaining and want to show your support, you can subscribe to the channel and press that like button. I'll see you guys next week. Goodbye.